silence is supposed to feel peaceful. That idea is so deeply ingrained that most people never question it. Silence is associated with rest, clarity, and balance. It is described as something healthy, something grounding, a moment where the nervous system can finally slow down. So, when silence appears, there is an expectation already in place. You are supposed to relax. You are supposed to feel calm. You are supposed to feel safe. But for some people, that reaction never comes. Instead of calm, silence feels heavy. It feels tense. It feels uncomfortable in a way that doesn't have a clear explanation. There is no obvious panic, no racing heart, no visible fear, just a quiet sense that something is off. And if this is your experience, it's important to understand this clearly. This discomfort is not a personal failure. The way you respond to silence is not a flaw in your character. It is not a lack of emotional intelligence, and it is not proof that something is wrong with your mind. It is a signal. Most people assume that discomfort in silence means anxiety. They tell themselves they think too much, that they can't switch off, that their mind is out of control. But psychology points to a deeper mechanism. For many people, silence feels unsafe not because it is empty, but because it removes distance. Silence takes away distraction. It removes sound, movement, conversation, and external focus. And when those layers disappear, attention turns inward automatically. This is not a conscious decision. It happens because the nervous system is always scanning for information. When the external world goes quiet, the internal world becomes more noticeable. Whatever has been postponed begins to move closer. Whatever was suppressed loses its cover. Whatever never had the conditions to be felt safely approaches awareness. This doesn't happen as a clear memory. It doesn't arrive as a dramatic emotional release. It happens as sensation, a tightening in the chest, a pressure in the body, a restless urge to reach for noise, movement, or stimulation. And this is the moment where silence starts to feel unsafe. Because for some nervous systems, stillness was never neutral. There was a time when silence meant something very specific. It meant vigilance. Quiet moments were moments of attention, moments of scanning, moments of readiness. In certain environments, silence carried information. It signaled tension in the room. It signaled unpredictability. It signaled that something might happen. In those contexts, silence did not mean rest. It meant preparation. And the body learned that lesson long before the mind could put words to it. The nervous system learned that when things go quiet, you do not soften. You monitor. You stay alert. This learning did not come from explanations. It came from experience, from subtle changes in breathing, from muscle tension held for long periods, from the background activation of the body. And once this association is formed, it doesn't disappear simply because life changes. Even years later, even in environments that are objectively safe, the nervous system may still respond as if silence requires attention. This is why some people feel uneasy in quiet rooms. Why complete stillness feels intrusive instead of soothing. Why silence can feel like exposure rather than relief. It is also why many people instinctively surround themselves with sound. A television playing softly, music running in the background, a fan, a podcast, any form of noise. These sounds are rarely about entertainment. They serve a protective function. They create distance. As long as there is sound, there is a buffer between awareness and the inner world. As long as there is noise, internal sensations remain slightly out of reach. Silence removes that buffer. And when nothing stands between you and your internal experience anymore, the nervous system doesn't relax. It braces. It scans. It prepares for something it once needed to anticipate. This is why silence can feel unsafe, even when nothing bad is happening. The threat is not in the present moment. It is in what silence allows to come closer. Not specific memories, not clear images, but unfinished emotional material. Sensations that were never fully processed. Silence becomes the space where the past feels nearer, even when you cannot explain why. And the discomfort does not come from danger. It comes from proximity, from being closer to parts of yourself that once had to remain out of awareness in order for you to function. When silence removes distraction, it removes distance. And that is where the unease truly begins. When silence feels unsafe, the natural reaction is to escape it, to fill the space, to keep something playing, to stay occupied. Noise becomes regulation. Movement becomes relief. Distraction becomes protection. And for a while, this works. As long as silence is avoided, the inner world remains at a manageable distance. But avoidance comes with a cost. The more silence is escaped, the more charged it becomes. Not because silence itself changes, but because what it reveals remains unresolved. Unprocessed, internal material does not disappear. It waits. And when silence finally removes the distractions that kept it away, the experience can feel overwhelming. Not because something new is happening, but because something old is finally close enough to be felt. This is often misunderstood. People believe they are getting worse, more anxious, less stable. But what is actually happening is exposure. Silence removes distance, and distance, while protective, also prevents integration. To integrate something psychologically does not mean forcing insight. It does not mean reliving the past. And it does not mean making silence feel peaceful. Integration begins with tolerance, the ability to stay present without immediately needing to escape. This is why silence feels threatening at first. It represents contact without control. There is no distraction to lean on, no script to follow, no immediate way out, just awareness. And awareness, when avoided for a long time, feels intense. But intensity is not danger. It is proximity. The nervous system does not calm down through reasoning. It calms down through experience, through repeated moments of silence that do not lead to harm, through stillness that does not require vigilance, through presence that does not overwhelm. At first, silence may only be tolerable for a few seconds, then for a minute, then slightly longer. This is not progress measured in comfort. It is progress measured in capacity. The capacity to remain with internal sensation without immediately reacting to it. This does not mean forcing silence. It means approaching it gradually, on your own terms. Allowing quiet moments without demanding that they feel good. Calm is not the starting point. Neutrality is. As the nervous system learns that silence is not a threat, something subtle begins to shift. The body softens instead of bracing. The mind observes instead of scanning. Sensations lose their urgency. Silence stops feeling like exposure and begins to feel like space. Not empty space, but open space. A place where internal movements can complete themselves instead of being interrupted. This is why silence eventually becomes meaningful. Not because it eliminates discomfort, but because it allows it to transform. What once felt dangerous reveals itself as unfinished processing. What once felt unbearable reveals itself as unacknowledged experience. And what once felt unsafe reveals itself as unfamiliar. Silence does not heal by itself, but it creates the conditions where healing becomes possible. Not through control, not through force, but through presence. If silence feels unsafe for you, it is not asking you to disappear into it. It is asking you to approach slowly, to notice what arises without immediately trying to fix it, to stay with sensation without demanding answers, to recognize that discomfort is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of closeness. Silence does not mean you are alone. It means you are nearer to sensations that want to complete themselves, nearer to emotions that were paused, nearer to parts of yourself that learned to stay quiet because the environment once required it. And when silence begins to lose its threat, it does not mean the past is gone. It means the present has become strong enough to hold it.